right, sitting here with Brad McLeod. Brad McLeod, how are you today?
All right, I'm sweaty as hell. Just finished a workout here at the house and got my butt kicked. But yeah, it was good, man.
That's
It's definitely
awesome.
good.
Well, it's
Yeah.
good to have you here. I wanted to have you come here and share this workout because I don't know. I guess it was back in 2012, maybe 2013 was probably the first time I hooked up with you
Yeah.
in preparation for Kokoro, Seal Fit Kokoro, and you helped me greatly to get ready for that. Then you were one of the instructors in Seal Fit Kokoro for me.
Right.
Then later you were one of the instructors for my son in 20X.
Yeah. Definitely.
And
Yeah.
then even
You
later
did
than
good.
that, I got your services again to get me ready for Go Ruck selection.
Right.
And well, this is where it's all gone down.
Man, it's
uh,
impressive, man. It's the most impressive home gym I mean, all this. The rig outside is crazy. It's
Well,
amazing.
This I tell you how this happens. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens very slowly and incrementally over
Yeah.
time. And a lot of people have seen this or come here and worked out and just think that I dropped. I mean, there's probably I don't know how much all this would cost. I have
Lot,
seriously no
yeah.
idea,
Just
but I
that
mean
rig
like
alone,
50,
yeah.
60 grand
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get this kind of a deal going. But
Yeah.
the way that this all works is I've got a group of people that come in the morning,
Mhm.
and maybe once or twice a year, everybody kicks in $100,
Mhm.
and that
Yeah.
does it. You know,
Group.
we buy a couple
Kinda co-op.
45s. We buy,
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
it is. It's a co-op, and it's free for everybody. We
Yeah.
don't charge anything, and like you've always urged in all of your stuff that you're doing is you get that really positive group of people around you that are going to lift you up, and that's
That's it,
been
man.
exactly what this has done. But a lot of people don't know much about you. I mean, certainly you have your audience. You run SealgrinderPT.
Right.
So I'd love for you to kind of give us the background on how you got to where you are, and you're a former Navy SEAL. Some people might think that you're just born a Navy SEAL, but in your
No.
case, that's one of the things that I love so much about your story is that it wasn't all roses, right? I mean,
No.
it wasn't all like Sturgill says, it ain't all flowers.
No. Yeah, man, it was a hard row. I think, for anybody to go out and try out for any type of an elite group or, whatever it is, D1 college football or whatever, you're going to have to go through a lot of obstacles. And, I mean, I was just kind of like the underdog. I was I've always been a little bit on the short side, not too big, always got kicked around, kind of beat up, pushed around. And really, I got into high school, and I was like a rowboat without the oars, without a sail, without a rudder and no compass. I was just kind of drifting and just kind of doing what everybody else was doing. And, of course, I got into trouble, partying, drinking, nothing too crazy, but, I was just drifting. And somewhere deep inside my stomach, my gut, it was just like, man, there's something out there for you. And I think we all kind of have, I mean, we do. We all have that where something's calling us to go to a higher level, to be our better selves,
Yeah.
And at that time, I wasn't reading positive mental attitude books. I didn't know about Tony Robbins. I didn't know about the Navy SEAL. I mean, any of that stuff, but someone gave me a book, and I read a story about the SEALs in Vietnam, and I was just blown away, man. I mean, really, I've used the term before. I was spellbound. It's like, it's kind of like, it was just this mystery, this enigma. I was like, you got to be kidding me. These guys you get paid to go travel around the world and hunt down bad guys and go through the swamps. And, it wasn't about the pay. I mean, you don't even make that much money as a SEAL. But I was like, you can go do some cool stuff. And from then on, man, I was already in the gym a little bit, and I don't know, man, it was like this little tiny spark, that question of, you got something better inside of you. That little spark just slowly became a kind of a smoldering ember. And, a lot of other things happened along the way. I had, friends or family or other people that would just say, you're not going to make it. And they had no reason to believe I would. I mean, this little scrawny guy, wasn't a letterman. I didn't do sports in school. I was a C- student at best. I mean, what did I ever do to show, I might as well have been the farm boy from Kansas that was pitching hay and saying, I'm going to go out to Hollywood and be a star. And everybody out in the small town of Kansas is like, oh, yeah, right, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
You got a long road to hoe. And I did, man. I had a long road to hoe. But really, I was just sick and tired of drifting. So what do they say? Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Right.
And, I knew there was another option. And so when I signed up for the Navy SEALs, I didn't have a contract back in the day. They didn't give you a contract. You went and tried out during boot camp. So if you didn't pass the test, then you weren't going to SEAL training.
Wow.
You would stay on in the Navy for 4 years
Yeah.
and do your gig. So there was a big incentive to like get in there and kick ass. And
did the recruiter tell you this?
Oh,
this stair-step process.
That's the way it was. You're all in, man. You had to sign, then go in the Navy, then sign up for SEAL. You didn't get a SEAL contract.
How does it work today? What's the difference today?
Today, now, essentially, you get a SEAL contract. You pre-qualify, and you get a SEAL contract, and you actually go to a special boot camp in Great Lakes. I don't know all the exact minuscule steps, but essentially, you're on a path with other potential Navy SEAL BUDS trainees to go to BUDS after Great Lakes. And so, and if you fail out, then you go to the fleet. But yeah, so that initial test was there in boot camp. It was like kind of like do or die, man.
Yeah.
And there were only 2 of us out of probably 20 that passed it. And but I knew, man, I was like, I get in that pool, brother. It's on. I'm gonna give it, everything. I mean, it's like, it's like the NFL Combine. It's like, you better get it on right now because you ain't getting another chance.
This is it.
What they see is what's going to put you forward. And so, kind of cut to the chase, though. I went to BUDS, and it was freaking hard, man. I remember thinking to myself, I was like, man, this is way harder than I thought. And I don't know what I was thinking, but this is still harder, And but I made it through Hell Week. I made it through every run. I made it through.
So let me just, for a lot of people that might not be familiar with this world, you're going to sign up and you're going to BUDS, Basic Underwater Demolition School, which is the precursor to being a Navy SEAL, right? And then within that, the final exam, so to speak, is the Hell Week.
Well, in terms of it is not necessarily a final exam, but it is the big, huge exam. And I think it was like on the 6th week. You got like 2 weeks of kind of pre-BUDS, and then you get into it. And on your 4th week, that's where you go all day, all night. I think I maybe had 2 hours sleep the whole week. And, they just run you, swim you, put you in the surf, and they're looking who's going to quit, who doesn't want it.
So a lot of people, when they hear about Navy SEALs and Hell Week and stuff like that, there is a thought out there that the training is 1 week. And it's not at all. It's a 8 week program, right?
It's 6 months.
Six
months.
months.
6 months, yes. And and then once you finish BUDS, you don't just become a SEAL and they kind of try it on you. Then you go on. You have another 6 months, and if any one little thing goes wrong, you don't get your trident. And so, but within that first 6 months, I went all the way through Hell Week. I was into dive phase, second phase, and I passed all my swims, all my runs, everything. The only time I had like a mark against me was I failed treading water of all things. With you have a scuba tank on your back and you have fins, and you have to keep your hands, your fingers above water and tread water for 5 minutes. And it sounds not too bad, but it's pretty tough. It's pretty hard to keep your mouth and nose above water and tread for 5 minutes like that. And actually, I went under and I had a flag on it, and but I came back. I passed it. The next week, I take a math test. It's a physics test. Fail the damn thing.
And the math test is for dive tables or? Dive
tables, physics, all that.
Okay.
And, no excuses, but it's not like a normal test where you sit down and you're taking a test and the air conditioning, the rooms, it's nice. And I'm taking a test, and I'm like, I've just been in the surf, so my body's wet. I would take the test, and I put the test up against the wall and roll my sleeves down so the water wouldn't drip on my test, and I'd take the test on the wall there. So you're under some level of stress, even when you're taking something as simple as a dive test. I failed the dive test. They gave me another shot, failed it, and boom, by that afternoon, I was getting my orders to go, and I was going to the fleet. And so in the real world, a good example of that would be like if you were playing, you were in the Atlanta Braves, and you were on the team, and you're playing, and you're training and doing all of that, and then you had a series of strikeouts or whatever, and you get sent back down to the farm league or whatever. But except in this case, I got to go up into the stands and sell peanuts and sell beer to other people and watch the Atlanta Braves. Because here's the story: is I got put on a ship. Believe it or not, there was a SEAL team on my ship, and so I'm sitting there now in my dungarees, Navy guy, chipping paint, swabbing the decks, and looking over, and there's a SEAL team platoon. They're all out there doing flutter kicks and pumping weights and push-ups and all that. So I got to watch a real SEAL platoon on my own ship that I was on. Brother, you want to talk about fire in the belly. I'd go down there in the bottom of that ship, and I would blow it up, push up every conceivable body weight workout I could do until I was just drenched with sweat. And it was actually, as bad as it sounds having a SEAL team on there, it was actually really good because that was like, they talk about fire and embers and spark. That's like piling up cords of wood and giving me 5-gallon drums, things of gasoline. I was just like, ugh. It's like right there, man. It's this piece of juicy steak that, like, I want to be. That's who I want to be. I don't want to chip paint. I don't want to swab decks. I want to be on a freaking SEAL platoon deployed. And so that really got me going. But it really, at a huge level, it was all about me getting the shit kicked out of me and getting knocked down and having to get back up. Because then it was kind of like then, once you failed and got sent now to the fleet, it was kind of like, all right, what you going to do now, boy? Are you going to get up or are you just going to stay down there on your knees? And it was hard, man. I mean, I went through the whole thing. Oh, woe is me. Oh, the instructors, they had it out for me. Trying to blame other people. No, it's all on me. 100,000%.
Yeah.
I broke out. I got a math book at the PX. I got my workouts dialed in. I was studying math at night, all that. And I put myself back on a path towards success. And I went back through the next time. I passed everything, dive physics, everything, all the runs, everything, and made it through the second time.
But when you say you went back through for the second time, when you fail out, they're going to roll you back to what part do you have to repeat?
You got to start back day one.
Wow.
That place is brutal, man. I mean, you hear the stories, and it's the cut. Like you're on a football team, and the cut there is brutal. Every freaking day, man, is you're under the gun to get cut. And if you're, if you do an obstacle course one week and your time doesn't improve over the next week, your ass, not only are you going to the surf and you're going to get tortured, or you're going to have to carry the steel pallets or whatever it is. I mean, it's, they're going to be in your face. And if you, if you were to fall off the slide for life and not complete that obstacle, there's guys that you don't get to go on in the training. Wow. That's part of the cut, It's just, there's always a cut. If you fail a run and then fail again, boom, you're out, on and on. Guys quitting right and left. Injuries and guys just getting sick is a huge part of it. Your body's so broken down. And you think about it, these guys are in and out of the surf. They're in and out of, back in the day, we were in the mud flats. You'd have guys with just crazy, they'd have chafing and they'd end up with some kind of weird infection, or, they've gotten water in their lungs and their immune system's down. And next thing you know, the guy's he's hawking up crap out of his lungs. I was very fortunate my body, even though it was beat up, I never had any, anything serious enough to knock me out of training. But you'll see guys cover it up and just try to soldier on and not, they don't want to go to the med shed and say, oh, my, such and such hurts or whatever. Right. They're like, if they go to the med shed, they're just give me a couple extra Motrin and I'm going to keep going. Mm-hmm. So the cut there is very brutal, and I'm just using that as an example to say, they didn't say, oh, yeah, well, you made it through all the way to second phase last time. Let's just you don't need to do hell week. You just start over. No.
No, you start
There wasn't
all
even
the
a
way
question. That wasn't even. I didn't even ask the question of, can I start back after hell week? It was like, all I wanted was my shot back in the door. Just give me my shot in the door. I was like, hell week's going to suck, but I made it through the first one. I'm going to do my best to make it through the second one. And, yeah, man, it's they don't spare.
Yeah.
They're not like, oh yeah, we'll push you up here and get you up here in a good spot.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things, that's an amazing story, and I mean, it's certainly, I'm sure most people that become SEALs have a story similar in that there's ups, there's downs, there's huge challenges to overcome. And I've read a lot of the books, of other SEALs that have written books, and there are all these challenges where they don't think they're going to pass this certain swim test, or they don't think they're going to pass this, and somehow they just dig really deep. And I think that's why, and I would like to ask you this, because over the last, say, 10 years, the SEALs and the SEAL mentality and the SEAL books have become more in the mainstream. When you first were learning about Navy SEALs, it was very, very quiet, very little written about it compared to today.
Compared to today, yeah.
And so let's bring that up right next to your mouth, that microphone.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. And so why is it that you think that has become so much more popular, and I think I may know the answer to this, but why is it that people are looking to Navy SEALs for mental toughness and looking to them for strategies for success outside of the military and in business and in daily life and in parenting and all of these other places? Why do you think it is that we are now looking towards your experience and other people's experience in the SEALs to gain that perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think is that in the same way back in the day, there was not as much written about it, but, what I did read was about, the 1970s, the Vietnam era, Navy SEALs and UDT and the old frogmen. And for those guys, I mean, that was just like, these guys were my heroes. Like, they would just overcome all these obstacles. And for a guy like me who was sick and tired of being sick and tired, I was like, man, I want to become that, a better person. I want to do something to serve my country. I want to have something that has some good, some tangible. And so I think there's a lot of people out there today, they're looking for that same thing. They're looking for a better life. I mean, it goes without saying, but, our world is chaotic at times, especially if you open up the newspaper or you open up Google News or whatever, you'd think the world's coming to an end almost. It's like there's and I'm just kind of joking, but like you got volcanoes in Hawaii, and you got geysers, and you've got tsunamis and hurricanes, and you've got school shootings and terrorists and ISIS and all this stuff with politics. It's like, man, we're all trying to find our way, and it's like. There's semblances of that. It doesn't have to necessarily be Navy SEALs. It can be that warrior culture of a warrior culture that really boils things down to a basic level and just says, okay, I'm just going to focus on what's the next right thing that I need to do.
Yeah.
We're talking about it here in this workout. I was getting my ass kicked in this workout, and I was like, what's the next right thing that I need to do? It's not thinking about the pull-ups. It's not thinking about the run. It's thinking about the power clean. Right here, let's finish these power cleans. I got 3 more, right? So keeping that level of focus when the rest of the world's chaotic is critical right now.
Yeah.
And so when people get semblances of that and they can say, wow, if this guy could do it with all this chaos going on and, grenades going off and gunfire, and this guy was able to keep on mission and perform a task and come back safely. Well, it's like, well, if he can do that, how about if I can just take a little piece of that and fight my way through Atlanta traffic,
right.
get to my job. I've got a boss that's lobbing grenades over the cubicle at me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, I've only got 30 minutes for lunch. We're all kind of in this chaotic world, trying to find peace and calm and focus and getting back to protecting our family, coming home safe. And so I think there's a huge desire, there's a huge want, there's a huge need. I think most Navy SEALs are going to say, yeah, it's a little overblown, too many books were sold or what have you. But I do think, and I know that there's a lot of guys out there in all types of special forces warrior culture that, we were talking about earlier, your T-shirt, mine says everything. You know, there's a lot of really good ideas, and if they're implemented even halfway, they can help your day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a long way of saying there's a lot of people out there that want to improve their daily life, and if they can take one little ounce of warrior culture and put it into their life, and they improve 1%, they want to come back for more. You know, they want to eat from this table of good food.
Yeah, and that's what you're doing at SealgrinderPT. You are there. If you go on your website, there are literally thousands of pages and a whole membership area where you can get into even more detail on these interviews with people that have done all kinds of things, from being a Green Team SEAL, Dev Gru, to somebody that has just done their first go ruck, the lightest go ruck, right?
Exactly.
And you're asking them all these questions about success. But one of the questions that I'm obviously deeply entrenched in this physical culture, right? Like,
you're kidding me.
I don't know if you looked.
You're not into lifting weight. You're not into that. Come on.
But I'm into this physical culture because I wasn't always into the physical culture. I mean, I was a wrestler in high school, but then I lost that, and I got away from that. And at one of the most important times of my life, where I'm trying to start my business, I'm trying to start my family, I'm trying to, really create my life, I don't have this, and I've lost it. And lucky enough for me, I had it as a warrior mentality from wrestling, like what we were talking about earlier, that wrestling is similar to a lot of these things in that you are going to be put to the test daily. And then you're going to have additional stress of having to cut weight at a very young age when all of your friends are going out drinking beer, drinking Coca-Cola, doing these other things. You can't even drink water.
A lot of things going on, and you've got to focus.
Yeah, and you have to focus. I mean, you can't. Your friends are going out drinking beer and partying, and you can't even have a glass of water because you got to weigh in this afternoon, right? So that was part of my background that gave me some of the discipline that I use today. But what was interesting to me is that I got away from the physical culture. I got away from those type of workouts, and that because I was fishing every day. I was trying to start my business. I was trying to do so many things, get married, start a family, do all of these things that are about creating your everyday life, and I forgot about those things. And I think that a lot of people do forget about those things. I had it in my background, and I'm like, well, man, I'm getting ready to have a baby. I think I really need to be in shape. Like, this is unacceptable because I'm going to have to work more, and I can't have this. I can't have this flat, spare tire around my midsection. So I'm going to start, and that kind of got me back into the culture. And then in doing that, got exposed to Tony Robbins, got exposed to the SEALs, got exposed to lots of positive things that really transformed my life and changed my life to the point of then interacting with you and saying, I want to take it one step further, and what is this SEAL Fit Kokoro all about? And that was a major, major transformation for me. What I wanted to ask you, and that's a long way to get to this question, but it is obvious, and it became even more obvious when working with you and then going to SEAL Fit, that when you break someone down physically, you can mold them mentally in a way, or you can allow them to experience being broken down, having that ego broken down, having everything around them broken down, and realizing, I am broken, but I can do 20 times more than what I thought I can. And that was what was so profound for me in the SEAL Fit Kokoro camp, which is a 50-hour camp that you go to, and active duty Navy SEALs as well as former Navy SEALs like yourself are there teaching,
Mm-hmm.
and you get broken down completely
Mm-hmm.
and then rebuilt. And Mark Devine told us, and you told us in the very beginning, you think it's hard now, but wait. And then a little bit later, we realized that, wow, I am doing better now than I was doing in the first few hours of the camp, right? Because all the nerves have dropped down. So that is a technique that all special forces use to break people down physically and then build them mentally. But that's not for everyone. I find that not everybody has this garage. Not everybody has the people around them that allow for that. So in your teaching with all kinds of people, you're seeing that too, that maybe a 5K is a Kokoro for somebody else. Maybe a 5K is buds for somebody else. Do you feel like it is completely necessary to bring the physical into this training, into training your mind and becoming more mentally tough?
I mean, you want to have your body at a certain level where you can be ready for anything at any time. That's kind of the way I look at it. Is I want to be able to if my family's in need or whatever, I want to be strong enough to be able to answer the call. And so that's probably just the baseline, is that I want to be able to train to protect my family, even protect my community. Hey, I live in Florida. There's hurricanes.
Yeah.
Limbs start going down in our neighborhood or whatever, our power's going to be out. If the wind blows more than 25, 30 miles an hour, we're going to have limbs down. You better be able to tote a chainsaw. You better be able to lift up logs. You better be able to push something. And that's just in our local community there. So, there's a certain level of physical preparedness that I think all men and women should have to protect their families. It definitely can be used as a vehicle, though, to open up the mind. It's cliche to say it, but I think we only know a fraction of what our minds are capable of. And but I mean, just even with myself, we were talking earlier about a bike ride. I'm getting ready to go here tomorrow morning and go on jump in on a big long bike race or what have you. And that physical, being able to turn those pedals and all that, that's great. You get to get out in nature. But what that also does, though, is that it actually, over time, begins to calm the mind, because I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not listening to the news and them talking about, earthquakes and terrorists and all that. And so I use that physical to get me into a space then where I can calm my mind, and then my mind begins to open up in terms of, I can be creative. I can think of good ideas. I can think of, hey, today's a great day. As weird as it sounds coming from a Navy SEAL, but I'll stop on a hike intentionally, take pictures of flowers, of trees, whatever that is, and enjoy the process.
Yeah.
There's so many of us. We're out there. Maybe you go on a hike, but you're in a hurry really quick to get it done, and you're looking at your watch, and you're doing, then you get back, and you're looking at your phone and all that. And so myself, I've really tried over the years to slow everything down in a good way, to be able to go out on a hike, go out on a bike ride, and allow my mind to calm down, so then I can work on deep breathing. I can subliminally say, easy day, or today's a great day, or I'm so grateful, and the more times you do that over days and weeks and months, you don't even think twice about it when you go, like in this workout here. I'm so conditioned to thinking, you can think with the monkey mind, oh, this workout sucks, I'm uncomfortable, whatever, right. But you intentionally just start flipping it and go, no, enjoy, put a smile on your face. Enjoy the process. And so that mindset, you can switch it in a physical realm. You can switch that mindset, move away from the monkey mind, and keep putting you in that positive realm. And then the workout's over and you're finished. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And instead of the other way, the monkey mind just beating you down, and then you end up with the workout. You don't even finish strong. You're laying out in the driveway. You know what I'm saying? And so you have that ability always in your mind. It's as easy as a switch. Sometimes that switch is a little rusty. Sometimes it's got gunk on it, but you can lever that switch to, it's all on you. We talked about that before about, I could blame the Navy. I could blame whoever, for my failings on that test.
Yeah.
No, it's all on me.
Right.
That made me a better person by turning myself around.
That's what I find so much about being physical and training physically every single day is what you just said is such a great example of that. Switch might be rusty or it might have a bunch of gunk on it, and I just feel like as we train in this way, whether that's long runs or long bikes or this CrossFit style or SealFit style workout, as we continue to train in this way, you're flipping switches all the time. I mean, first you're flipping a switch when you look at the board and go, "Ugh, I don't like those movements. That's terrible. Oh, handstand walk, I can't do that." Right? Well, you flip it. First of all, there's no such word as can't. Right? Like, and then that switch starts to get a little bit looser and a little bit looser, and then this switch over here starts to get a little bit looser to where it's easily transferable and it translates easily into everyday life to where we're going to be late for a big meeting. The whole deal's going to go bad. Oh, I'll lose this sponsorship. It's going to be bad. You can go that route or you can flip it. And, hey, how about we do the call on the phone?
Yeah.
Because I'm stuck in traffic and who knows, maybe it'll be better. But I find that for me, and I'm sure it doesn't work for everyone, but the physical training is such a pathway into flipping those switches and into being able to flip those switches in any aspect of your life. And a place that I find is it's become more in my comfort zone, but it certainly was not in my comfort zone, and that's parenting. Like, you don't know. Right? You have a baby for the first time. There's no instruction manual. You don't know anything. And then you get frustrated here or there or wherever. And then it's that physical training that allows me to quickly just go, okay, hold on. I feel my breathing going shallow. This is not what we're supposed to be doing. I'm getting upset over no reason. I'm going to take a little time out and, flip that switch. But I just see that a lot of people that I know don't train physically, and I just wonder how they even make it through the day. I seriously do.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of people out there. I was one of them before I went to the SEAL training, and that, I didn't even know what a monkey mind was. I had it, and nowadays, if and for those, I just use the term monkey mind. It's just that the mind, untrained or
undisciplined,
undisciplined, will just begin to wander, and a lot of times it will just go right off into the negative, and you've got all these thoughts bouncing around in your head.
Yeah, but you also have all of these inputs that are helping you to go off. You've got the news, you've got Facebook.
That chaos.
It's total chaos, like you were talking about, and your mind can go crazy. Oh, volcanoes are blowing up. This is happening.
Hey, this really is the end of the world.
Right.
That if you look at it, you could say.
And you start getting, your breathing starts getting shallower, and you really go into a full-blown minor panic attack because of nothing, right?
Yeah.
It's just what's happening around the world. So how do you, outside of the physical, how are you mentioned, hiking and doing some stuff like that. How are you quieting your mind?
I go out to the forest with my dogs a couple of times a week, and that's a big part of it, just kind of getting out of the city, turning off my phone, and I've got this beautiful national forest out to the south of us. And I'll go out there and I'll hike. I'll work on trails. I'll pick up trash. It's a physical activity. I'll go running with my dogs, or I'll go bike with them. And so that's a huge part of it for me. I do go to an actual real live gym up the street from me. I've got a really great training partner, Chris Stoudemire. Give him a shout out. Meet up with him and do some powerlifting a couple of times a week, and that's really helped me out. But that not really quieting of the mind really at all necessarily in that. You do have to focus, but that's my time is in the afternoon. I get all my work done, and if it's a nice day, man, I'm heading that way. And so that's a huge part of 2-3 hours a day where I can kind of do my own thing. And for me, that's super. People can say, "Oh, you're slacking off. You're doing, whatever." It's like, no. I spent 21 years in Atlanta, in the big city, and traffic and doing all that stuff. And I always, always came to Chattanooga to go climbing, or I'd come up here to go paddling, or mountain biking, or whatever. That was like my refuge. And so really now, living in Florida with the National Forest there, that's my outdoor recreation, a lot closer to my house, and just kind of getting out. I loved Atlanta, but it was just a little bit too much for me in terms of, a lot of chaos and some negative stimuli. And so having that 2 to 3 hours a day, actually my, in terms of business, has done better. My creativity, has gone up, a lot more relaxed, and just, you're not as anxious in general. I think there's a lot, I know there's a lot of anxiety out there and a lot of stress, especially in your big cities. It's just go, go, go. Everybody wants to work the 80-hour week, make a bunch of money. More power to them. I'm not saying anything against money. I'm just saying is that I had to be aware of what were the things that helped me to quiet my mind and calm down. And it's so important that, like, when I went out to SEAL Fit, the best parts of SEAL Fit for me were going up to the mountain.
Yeah.
And you talked about, I think you listened to one of our little
absolutely.
audio I made, walking up the mountain. And from a creativity standpoint, man, my mind was just pinging on all levels, because, as you know, the mountain, I'll just give a little background. The mountain is, I think, I remember the actual name of the mountain. I'll think of it later. But anyway, it's Palomar Mountain.
Yeah,
Palomar Mountain, long mountain, lots of false summits, and the guys and gals in Kokoro have to hike up this thing and come all the way back down. It's tough. It is we've seen a lot of people quit up there. But as an instructor, it's awesome, man. You're up there with all these guys and gals. They're pushing themselves. You get to put everything into it. You're like, helping to push them, breathe good life into them. And you're hiking most of the night, and you're looking up, and there's comets flashing. You can see the glow of the city.
Those were just hallucinations I was having.
Well, maybe they were for me too. But you're seeing the glow of the city. You're hearing birds off in the distance. There's the smells of the eucalyptus trees.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, in reflection, I'm like, look, it's like, man, that's the kind of stuff. I kept going out to SEAL Fit. I was like, I love this stuff, man. Or when we would be at the ocean, it'd be like 4 a.m, and we'd watch the sun come up. And those are some of the most powerful moments when you're there in nature. You're not on a phone. Your phone's not ringing. There's not all this chaos. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can simplify down. And we're going back to that warrior culture again. The warrior culture is very simple and minimalistic. You can study these warrior culture from way back, the Spartans, even studying modern-day forest monks. Very simple lives. And a big part of their life is physical labor, physical work, being productive in your society. And so that's a really long way of saying is just that those parts of SEAL Fit, when I was still living in Atlanta, I was like, those are the things I want, to be able to be out in nature, pushing people, calming my mind. It was like hitting on all cylinders,
Yeah.
And so so that's a big part of what I do now, and it's helped me a lot in terms of just relaxing in general and trying to be a better person. I can be a better person when I'm not. We can all be a better person if we're not under a ton of negative stress and chaos and traffic. That's the way I look at it. So yeah.
But you also are constantly finding ways and to keep yourself tested, to keep yourself on the edge. I mean, you are. I know you are, because you're doing these bike rides across the state of Florida. I mean, 300-mile bike ride, and I don't know what you're getting ready to get into tomorrow. But
up in the mountain. I don't know what I'm getting into tomorrow. It's up in the mountains. But yeah, no, that's just.
Is that part of it for you to constantly continue to test yourself, and you keep going back to the physical, but not everybody needs to necessarily always go back to the physical. I mean, testing yourself could be learning a foreign language or getting yourself in some kind of, I don't know, taking a parenting class, whatever your outside of your comfort zone is.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that that's hugely important, again, to keep flipping those switches. And some of those switches are, you know, I may be a little bit older, but I can still learn and I can still improve myself in all of these different areas. And it may be physical. It might be just reading different books that you have never read before. But I notice that you're doing that just in following you on social and staying in touch with you. You're doing these things that are obviously a physical test for you. And so you're doing those, why? To keep yourself on the edge or to keep testing yourself, or what are you doing?
Yeah, no, I think I like the edge at a certain level. I'm not necessarily like an adrenaline junkie, like, you know, doing base jumping or anything like that, and more power to people that do that. But one good thing that I found with the bike is that I can go out there and I can raise money for other charities, Navy SEAL Foundation. There's a local group in my hometown, homeless teens. And so I've thought about that. It was like, what can I do? I like to ride the bike. I like to do physical stuff. I don't mind if it, you know, rains or whatever. I like to be out in the kind of the gnarly stuff. Like, what can I do that will push me but also help other people? And so I've really found, for me, that was like a perfect combination. Get on your bike, do something good. And, you know, I found out is like, you can't quit a bike race through the mountains if you're raising money for Navy SEAL Foundation, and there's veterans out there that are, you know, they're missing part of their body, or they've been blown up, or, you know, something awful's happened. All my legs and arms are working. I mean, you know, so what if my butt gets a little sore and my back and I'm sweaty or whatever? That's a very small price to pay. And I found that having that level of accountability, when you've got people cheering you on and saying, hey, go, 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 raise money for charity, you can't get off that bike, at least I can't, with a straight face and say, I'm done. It ain't going to happen. So it really helped push me further, and at the same time trying to do something good. And so I was kind of working within the passion of what I have for the outdoors. It kind of just like it was hitting on everything there. And I was like, really, this is something where, you know, you can really get out there and you can help other people. Hopefully you can inspire other people. And also tell them too is like, you know, one thing that was kind of in my mind is like, you know, I'm 55 now, whatever. I try not to play the age card, but I'm just trying to use an example of like, I'm 55 now, you know, if I prop my feet up on the couch and cracked open a beer and watched the Golf Channel and looked at my shiny trident on the wall, probably nobody would say a word. But I would know. Yeah. I would know deep down inside of me. And after the things that have happened in my past life and whatever, and knowing where I've been, I'm like I ain't done. They're just getting going, you know? And it's like, you've got to have that ability to kind of pull yourself up by your own scruff of your neck. Yes, it's good to have accountability. Yes, it's good to have a workout partner like yourself. Those are all good. But there's also times when, you know, you're going to be out there by yourself, and you've got to help pick yourself back up. And I saw that in biking is that, like, you know, I'm not done. It's like I've had a little renewed commitment to powerlifting, and I've had some actual good numbers. And a lot of people are like, powerlifting, heavy weights, you don't want to do that at 50-something. No, it's actually good for testosterone production. My body feels great. You know, why not? And so, you know, I'm just – it's just an active, ongoing – I don't want to use the word battle. It's an ongoing soft fight against you know, gravity, my own ability, you know, or my own wanting to, you know, sometimes we just want to sit down, relax, whatever. That's good. But I wanted to keep going and help raising money for charity. I wanted to help inspire other people, and the bike was just seemed like the best way.
That's super cool. Yeah. I think that anytime that you can challenge yourself, and sometimes we talk about getting out of your comfort zone, but a lot of times I mean, that is your comfort zone, which is kind of ironic that
I know.
going to the edge of endurance and those, that's where you're super comfortable.
Yeah.
And I've kind of thought about that with all of this and everything. It's like, okay, what am I going to do for my 50th birthday? How about a quad Murph? That sounds really challenging.
Whoa.
And we've done triples, but we
Oh
haven't
my
ever done
God.
a
You're
quad.
kidding me.
And so I'm thinking, well, okay, but that is squarely in my comfort zone. Like, if I'm going to really challenge myself,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, that's certainly a great challenge, but that is squarely within my comfort zone. Now, it's going to the edge of the comfort zone, but it's not. I don't know. And so I start thinking, what if I traveled in a foreign country with my wife and we didn't understand the language, and how much out of my comfort zone would that be? And not to a place that, Switzerland or something that's going to be just overwhelmingly beautiful. Every direction that you look, you're just blown away. That's, again, in my comfort zone. I love mountains. That would be awesome. But just kind of thinking about, wow, getting out of the comfort zone would be doing something that, I don't know. I don't know how to sail. What if we took a sailboat and I sailed somewhere? Like, that would be learning. But that gets back to one of the tenets that you have, and it's true through everything I've ever read of your stuff, and that is improve 1% a day. And so talk about that a little bit, about what does that mean to improve yourself 1% a day?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it is understanding what your weaknesses are. And so, really that whole concept, I just take it all the way back to when I was on the ship. And, I knew that I had to change. I couldn't keep doing what I was doing and get to where I wanted to be. I was a C- student in math, and I like to lift weights. And but so I knew that I had, I didn't necessarily have a problem with the bodyweight workouts at SEAL training, but I knew I had to improve and be better when I came back around the next time. So I actually dropped the weights for a while, completely changed up my body weight workouts to be more like that of Bud's, and I was hitting the books every night, And so that was really the start of it, whereas if you would have taken me 5 years before, I would have been not hitting the books at night, and I would have been doing just the things I like to do, which is lift weights in the gym. And so I had to change. And, ever since then, it's always been, what's a good book I can read before I go to bed? Or, what's, some type, good nutrition? What's something, good that I can eat and put into my body? And the more times I did that, I mean, no duh, then my life started improving, in terms of like, whether it's, in the physical realm of, 5K run time comes down, or even in the business world of, I've owned and operated a business in the past, and, things went better when I read more books at night about a subject that I'm trying to learn about, so it's really just kind of becoming a lifelong student. I wanted to definitely not be the old, angry, grumpy dude that kind of knew everything and was kind of like, I knew what I didn't want to be. I knew, and so I went backwards and said, well, what I do want to be is someone who is open to ideas and, oh, okay, we'll try that. Or even like this workout. It's like, I knew when coming up here I was going to get into some business. And I knew I hadn't been doing CrossFit workouts. I've been doing other stuff. But, what I'm saying is, so like, this coming here today is a 1%.
Yeah.
And so always trying to find the 1% and, going tomorrow to join that race. And so it becomes just a small challenge of connecting the dots of each day, kind of a reset to say, what can I do today to help me get better? Because if I don't have that switch turned on, then I'm back where I was before at 17.
Yeah.
I'm the rowboat drifting in the ocean.
And don't you think that mentality, I mean, that is a mentality that permeates your entire life. Don't you think that is applicable to any field, anything, any person of growing 1% a day towards success?
Yeah, I mean, I could say it doesn't matter what what you're doing. You could be a pro golfer, or you could be, working in a cubicle trying to, work on a new software or whatever it is. I mean, it just, as long as you're exploring your craft and you're trying to expand. I mean, anywhere in life, the other people are, you may not think they're noticing, but they notice, when you, on your lunch break, instead of, going down to the vending machine or whatever and sitting in the cafeteria, you actually went on a run. People see that. And then they wonder why a year later you're fit, energetic. At the end of the day, you've actually got some energy. A lot
Maybe
of times
why you're not in that cubicle and you're in the corner office.
Yeah,
more likely.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is like little small increments like that, of taking a 15, 30-minute run during the lunch break, and you come back to the cubicle, even though you may not even have a shower. You may have just had to wipe yourself down,
right.
but you made a sacrifice and you did what you needed to do. That's your little 1%. And next thing you know, 3 years later, you're in a corner office, and you're managing everybody else.
It's 50% at that point.
Because you've read, and you read 7 books on management or software. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just goes on and on.
So let me ask you this: in order to improve yourself 1%, do you put the gas on the things that you're good at, or do you attack your weaknesses, or both?
It's so hard because sometimes, you always want to say, oh yeah, you go after your weaknesses or whatever, and at some level though, it's a hard question really to answer. I think you want to acknowledge your weaknesses and go after them, be aware of them, and but also align it with your path. Where is it that you're truly headed? And so there may be some things that might have been a weakness that, okay, well, it may be better here that I work on this strength over here. So it really almost depends on the situation. But that awareness, you have to be aware, because otherwise you can be a victim of your own liking to do what you like to do, and you get pretty good at that, but then you get put in another little environment over here, and you're like, oh, shit, you're only like half as good as you think you are. So there's a huge amount of being humble, and that when you get into this other little environment over here, you could very well get your ass kicked. And so it does go back to that, be ready for anything at any time. Earlier you were talking about shooting. Mm-hmm. You say, you wanted to build your shooting skills, and maybe they aren't where you wanted them to be. And so you're actively talking about that. You want to go to a shooting course and learn from top instructors or what have you. So I think part of it too is just that desire. For me, it's like I want to have some level of desire in it, so that it that can help pull me along, propel me along. The time, there are times definitely when you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, I don't want to go work out, but I'm going to go do it anyway. There's a lot to be said for that. So
well, again, that's another switch of, I don't want to make this phone call, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. Because I don't want to do triple Murph today, but I did it anyway. I don't want to do bench press today because I'm terrible at it, but I did it anyway. I don't want to do this type of workout or a 6-mile run, but you do it anyway. And then that translates to, I really don't want to have this difficult conversation with one of my employees, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. And you know what? If you take it that same, that's just like the rusty switch. Mm-hmm. You're building that of, man, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then it could be, I find that in fishing, I don't know, fishing has a lot of good application to life, because there would be situations where, you're good at tarpon fishing, where they are or whatever, that particular type of fish. Then, but you're weak at bone fishing or permit fishing or whatever, or you are weak on certain conditions. It's cloudy, and as soon as it's cloudy, you can't see in the water. You don't know where to find these things. Mm-hmm. So then you decide you want to go into a tournament, and you get your ass handed to you because on the tournament day it's cloudy, and you're after this fish that you don't know how to fish for in the clouds, and you basically don't know how to fish for it in the clouds because it wasn't fun for you at the time. You're like, well, I could just go do this over here. I can tarpon fish in the sun because I can see them and they're big and everything. And when it gets cloudy, we'll just go do something else. But I always kind of was looking at that as, God, how much better would I be if I was confident doing this in these adverse conditions? And so what that meant for me was, in those adverse conditions, I needed to go do the things that I didn't particularly like when I could be doing something far more productive. And then eventually, if you keep doing those things that you're not good at under those conditions that you don't really prefer, that all of a sudden becomes a strength. And you've taken something that was a weakness and you've turned it into one of your greatest strengths. And that's been an underlying theme of a lot of the stuff that I've talked about on this podcast with a lot of the different guests, is how weakness has become strength. And I was going to ask you, how do you think your life would be different if you had passed that math test the first time?
Man, I don't know if I've ever really thought about that. But you know what? If I had $1 million, if they said you give you $1 million and you could have failed out of buds and gone to the fleet and all that, my life has been tremendously better because of that. I mean, it just going through that struggle meant everything. At the time, it didn't seem like it.
Right. At the time, it's
it
the
was
worst
like,
ever.
Oh my God! And so, no, I honestly tell you, I mean, if someone said you could go back in time, I wouldn't say I want to pass that math test. That made me what I am.
Right.
That made everything. Later on in life, I got put into some bad situations, even like the recession. You know, it's like the sky was falling. You know, in the recession, and you know, I won't go into any details or whatever. And I survived it or whatever. You know, a lot of us did, and some of us didn't. But it, you know, I could have thrown in the towel then and just said, you know, whatever. And I think that would have probably happened if here's the thing, if I would have failed out of buds and didn't go back, my life would be a wreck. It would be a complete, utter train wreck, because I wouldn't have had that resolve. And I just know later on in life, curveballs got thrown or whatever, and it was like, yeah, you know, and I'm never going to say, you know, I'm Superman, I stand up, blah, 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 whatever. I'm not. I got freaking knocked down, and I figured out a way to get back up, and it wasn't pretty. It was ugly. And I've made a lot of mistakes. I had a lot of issues or whatever, but I found a way to win in the end, and I didn't quit. And that meant so much, you know. I mean, as you know, with a family guy, I mean, that just, you know, being there for my family, doing the right thing for other people that are around me. You know, like I say, I made my share of mistakes, but at the same time, I'd be a completely different person. So, but yeah, I don't, as hard as it is to say, is like, I really, that instance there with me failing out, that really put me where I'm, made everything. I mean, I went to college. The Navy paid for my college. I couldn't have went through college before. I didn't have the discipline. I didn't have I didn't have the day-to-day. Definitely, yeah.
I find it interesting that you went immediately to, well, my life would be a train wreck if I hadn't have gone back, right? You bounced back and you went back and you accomplished your initial goal. But the original question was, how would it have been different if you had passed that math test? Because you could have just kept on going and maybe been, you know, maybe gotten your trident and maybe kept going. But I see that one of your strengths now, obviously, is your passion for learning and your passion for getting 1% better every day, and you're translating that to a lot of people through the work that you're doing. And it's kind of interesting that if you look at maybe why that is, it's maybe because you failed that math test. And had you just passed that math test, maybe you would have still been a SEAL, but maybe mediocre in your life, as opposed to getting knocked down and learning from it and and say and building this discipline and this underlying theme and tenet throughout your entire life of this 1% better.
So here's the thing right here. You talked about earlier, do you think you should work on your weaknesses or whatever? I had to work on my weakness. That was my weakness. I was a C-. I really probably was a D+ student, and they probably just kind of passed me on. I rarely even use this word. I hate math. It's hard for me to say that. I'm just not good at it. I suck at it. And I got exposed. It's kind of like going to play D1 college ball and you're not good at a certain thing, and you're a cornerback and some receiver knows you're not good at that, and you get burned for a touchdown in the game,
Yep.
And so I had to double down harder than I ever, and I'm on a ship, so I didn't have a teacher sitting there saying, you should do this. It was hard, man. And so I had to acknowledge my weakness. I had to double down on my weakness. I had to have the discipline to study that at night on the ship. So that's the real life example of right there. I mean, the question you asked before, that's if you really want to move forward, you have to acknowledge it as ugly as it is, face it, and do something about it.
Yeah.
Man up.
Yeah.
Okay? It ain't going away. I could have sat on that ship and not opened a math book and probably went back and probably would have failed the damn thing again. I had to do the work. You got to do the work.
Yeah.
That's probably a better way, a real life example of answering it, is that, that weakness, and that's the thing too. If I would have went all the way through BUD/S, pass that test or whatever, I would have been like, you can still
things come easy to me.
You can still be a C- student and make it.
Exactly.
No, if you don't have the talent, you're getting flushed out of BUD/S.
Yeah.
As simple as that.
Yeah.
If you don't have the grade.
That's where life today is not quite like that. It's not as black and white as that. And people are getting pushed through schools, and people are getting, they're making it, as mediocrity. Mediocrity is accepted. It's not accepted there.
No.
That is the highest standard, and I think that's one of the reasons why, one of the original questions was, why are we looking to the SEALs and looking to the Green Berets and looking to these special forces? Because the standards are so high that if you've made it through there, you obviously learned something. But as you know as well as I do, that there are every different level of every single thing there is. Whether you're a chef, there's a chef that can make a pretty good hamburger, and there's a chef that can absolutely blow you away with something that he is focused on his craft. He is working every single day to be better at every single aspect of it, and using it incrementally like that. That's interesting, because I've always kind of wondered that about you. Like, that math test was so important in your life, and if you had just passed it, maybe you end up thinking things are just coming easy.
No, it's cool that you brought that question around, because I'm sure like a week from now I'm going to be on my bike or out there running with my dog, and I'm like, what if? And now,
Well, when you come up with that answer, we'll do another podcast.
No, but I mean, self-examination, self-reflection is really important. I think we should all be our own best critic. I don't think you should just beat yourself up and necessarily, but we really have to. I talked about being in the woods earlier, and people are like, "Man, you're out there, you're whacked out, you're just like a hermit." No. I actually use it for production. In terms of being creative, let my mind rest, what have you. So no, that's I don't. No one's ever asked me that question. I don't think I've asked myself that. So that's pretty cool that you found that angle, because I'm sure that'll come up a week from now.
Well, I get interested in that because as a parent, and now my son, the one that went through 20X with you, Turner, he's almost 21. Hayden, who you just met a little while ago, he's 18, and my daughter is 14. And we're going through all of these things, and maybe they get cut from a team, or maybe they don't get this, or they don't get that, or they fail something, or they didn't the girl they wanted to ask to the prom doesn't go with them, or I don't know, any number of things to where you see, wow, this looks like a beautiful road that they could take, and it would be awesome, and it doesn't happen that way. And I have these conversations with my wife, and it's like, yeah, but you never know, man. You never know if that is the thing. That you it's hard to question the process, like what we were talking about before, that this thing that seems as though it has just smacked you in the face and knocked you down, in 20 years you may look back at that and think that that's the greatest thing that ever happened to you. It wasn't fun, it wasn't pretty, it wasn't nice, it wasn't enjoyable at all, but it made you who you are today. And I see that because I have a lot of people that listen to this podcast, and a lot of the people that pay attention to anything that I'm doing are people that want to make their living in the outdoors. They want to be a hunting guide, a fishing guide, an outfitter. They want, and in a lot of ways, some of those people, or in a lot of cases, some of those people are young people like my son, or somebody that's just going to jump into that business and go down that road early. There are other people that are sitting in the cubicle, and all they want to do is fish every weekend. That's all they want to do. And so they're thinking, man, could I possibly quit this job? Could I possibly do this? And they're going to do something, and they're going to go get their captain's license, or they're going to do something, and they fail. And it knocks them back a little bit. And they could either go sit back in that cubicle and say, well, I guess you know, if it all lines up perfectly, then it'll be great and I'll do it.
Yeah.
But it's almost never going to line up perfectly. That's the thing. It's never going to line up perfectly with parenting. It's never going to line up perfect in business. It's never going to line up perfectly in something that you want to do so badly, like you wanted to be a SEAL so badly, and it just didn't. There were all kinds of challenges, but without those challenges, man, who knows? I mean, maybe you sail through and you get bored with it. Like, this was way, I mean, that's probably never been said about going through SEAL training, that it was just too easy and I got bored with it. But there's so many other things that can be like that you wanted to try this, and it worked, and you had marginal success, and then you quit because it was boring after a while. But had you had some challenges in the process there, then maybe your success at the end would have been so much higher. I just find it to be very, very interesting. I ask a lot of people that kind of question of things that you saw were great challenges and you overcame them. You know, are you happy about that or not? Or would you go back and take that away? And like, I don't think you'd take that math test away. I mean, that's obviously been a huge thing for you.
No, I mean, it just. It definitely, you know, like I say, man, it made me have to work way harder, and it made me have to self-examine myself and say, look, I do have flaws, chinks in my armor. I've got issues. I got to get them straightened out.
Right. But I think the translation is that was in SEAL training, which has ultra high standards. But the translation is that's everyday life, man. That is every day, everybody, the regular person doing anything is going to have challenges and fail badly.
Oh yeah.
And then that's really it. If I were to be asked what is the secret to success, that's what it is not being afraid to get out there and try things that you may not be good at or that are outside of your comfort zone. And then when you do fail, and you're inevitably going to fail because you're not good at them, right? You're not good at these things, and you're trying them anyway, and you're going to fail. It is how you react to that failure that determines your success 25 years down the road.
You going to lay down, or are you going to claw your way back up? You know,
that's right.
It may be ugly getting back up, but
it's going to be ugly
as long as you get one knee under you and wobble and get back up, you know. And that, you know, like even in fighting, I like to watch MMA, UFC, and all that. And man, when you can see a guy come, you know, the guy's on the ropes and he's getting demolished or what have you, and the fight's almost over, and he finds a way to get back up, and even if he finishes the fight and loses, at least he got up. And I think, you know, people applaud that. They want that. They want to see somebody struggle and make it through, because they, you know, like I say, they're having that in their own day-to-day life, you know, so they can relate. They can relate to that fighter.
And
know?
then there's the whole concept of just don't quit, and that's where the SEALs, the Rangers, the Green Berets, and so many special forces that I'm not even aware of, probably. It's just so easy to quit. Like, it's so easy to quit in Kokoro. There's millions of chances to quit. The instructors are actually encouraging you to quit. Like, man, you cold? Because there's some hot coffee and donuts right over there.
Get
and you're
inside
probably
your
hungry
head.
too, right?
I know.
And
Get
they're
inside
doing
your
all
head.
kinds of things to make it even easier to quit and easier to quit. And you overcome that. And that is easily transferable and translates to everyday life of working out, of doing business, of being a parent, of so many other things. Just that don't quit mentality. What do you tell somebody? I mean, and that is a major theme of all your work too, is just don't quit. I mean, like, what do you tell people, whether they're getting into buds or they're starting a business? What does that theme look like to you? How do you translate that to people?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is that you have to know what your why is. I mean, that was a huge thing for me in terms of not quitting. It's like, how do you go to Buzz and you weren't a letterman, you weren't, a jock in high school, you didn't do well at math. How did you get in there and you just found a way to thrive? Not necessarily thrive, but I found a way to make it through. And a lot of that was based on my why. Is that I was sick and tired of doing what I was doing before. Didn't want to go. I didn't, going back home. Options. I didn't want to go back home and just drift again. And so, but also my family. I just, that's been a recurring theme for me. That's why I live in Florida now. My family's down there, and that's important to me. But definitely my why. When I got there, I was surrounded with other jocks. There's guys 6'2" chiseled warriors next to me, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm in trouble. My first week in Buzz, I'm like, I don't know how this is going to pan out. But once I got out in the surf zone or what have you, and I saw these guys quitting, it was like, how did that guy quit? He was a letterman or whatever. And it's like, well, he was a stud athlete. He's got options. He never had anybody in his face calling him, words he'd never even heard before. And so I found out quickly that those guys that had a strong why they were there in their gut, those were the guys that stuck around, And that's the instructors wanted guys like that in a battle, they had a why, they had a higher calling. And so, when I relate that back over to other people, is that, somewhere in terms of not quitting, you have to have some level of passion for what you're doing. You have to have that why. Why is it that you're doing what you're doing? Well, earlier I talked about riding a bike. Why in the hell you want to ride a bike all night long in the mountains, and beat yourself up or whatever, and it's raining and rocks and just getting bit by bugs? Why in the hell you want to do that? And it's like, my why to help veterans is so strong. This is like a small thing, right? And so the why really galvanizes it. It puts it all into an alignment. Like I could not. The pain that I would face if I went home a quitter, I couldn't go home a quitter.
Right.
I'd rather die than be a quitter, because it's so important to me to, for my family, for my dad to say, I'm proud of you, And I think really my dad would say, I'm proud of you either way. My dad would support me. But for my dad to say he's proud of me for finishing Buds, I mean, I almost kind of get emotional about it right now. Just think about that. Bro, you put me in the surf, we'll go all night long. You put me in the mountains, we'll go all night long. We'll go days. And let's do it. Let's go. Because my why is so strong. I'm going to keep going no matter what. I'll find a way to win. My bike breaks, I put that thing on my shoulder and I'm gone. I'm walking, right? And so that's, for me, we talk about how do you talk to someone about not quitting in business or life or parenting or going to Buds or whatever. If you got that why, you want an A+ why. You honestly can be a C- student or runner or whatever. Yeah, you want to be top if you can, but your why is what's going to keep you in that game and keep you coming back. My why was so strong, they put my ass on that ship. I had SEALs over here doing flutter kicks near me, antagonizing me, And that was just fuel. I couldn't wait to get off that ship. And it was like, because my wife, all I want to do is go home. And my dad say he's proud of me for what I did and not being an effing quitter. You know, for me, that's the most repulsive, to quit within something that you're passionate about. That's, for me, that's like a foreign language, man. I can't even go there. And so, but for me to focus on, why am I here at 2:30 at night in the mountains and it's raining on me and I want to just lay down in the mud and sleep? Why am I here? For veterans. Well, that my why is right here.
Mm-hmm.
This little bit of pain.
So this is really interesting, because I think that is absolutely the secret to so much success on anything, on any front, whether it's going through buds or making it through Kokoro or Go Ruck Selection or whatever. How is it that you help people to determine what their why is? Because it's easy to say, well, you should just know it. But when you ask somebody,
I know.
Why are you doing this? And they go, well, I don't know.
Yep.
Just and you're like, well, you better know.
Yeah.
Because and that can be the case of, you're an entrepreneur and you're going to start a business. Why are you going to start this business? Well, I don't know. I mean, you know.
It looks cool.
Well, that's the recipe for failure.
Yeah.
So how do you help people to determine that why? Because once you find that why, that's the most important piece of the puzzle. That is absolutely it. And I'm sure in a lot of your training with people and your personal interactions with them, you're helping them to find that why and to condense that into a one sentence or something to where you're like, what's your why? Boom, I can tell you right now. And that was one of the things that happened in Kokoro. They were saying, you better, you know, and I don't know if it was all the instructors, but there were certain instructors, they came over and they said, why are you doing this?
And
I'm
and
like,
that's a question
like,
I would.
I don't know. They're like, buddy,
you better find out.
Next time I come here, you better tell me why. And
the hurricane's coming, and you
and
better
about
know.
35 hours later, it was so clear in my mind. So tell me, how do you help somebody to find their why?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, talked about a little bit before about reflection, self-examination. You know, that's something at an early age. I got put into the fire at Buds, and I had to figure it out real quick. Like we say, you know, we use Tony Robbins as a generic kind of a, you know, positive mental attitude type guy. He's got all these different programs or whatever. I hadn't been exposed to that. I hadn't read a book about that. It's not as if when you go into the Navy SEAL training the first day, they said, you know, you need to find your why, and here's what you need to do to find it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like you're thrown in the fire, and you better figure it out really quick. And I'll say that for me, I got lucky in a certain sense of that. I didn't have that. I didn't want the option of going back home. So I had to do a lot of soul searching. And in that soul searching gut, I really think is like that first week of Buds, that first week woke my ass up. Like I had never been woke up before, you know, so far out of my comfort zone. I mean, it's just, and the first week is really not that hard compared to every progressive week. And so I had to spend the time really deciding, is this truly what I want? Because this is way harder than I thought. And this letterman next to me right here is going to be a SEAL. And I don't know what's going to happen to me. But within about a week or 2 weeks, you spend a lot of time in the surf zone. You spend a lot of time crawling on the beach. You spend a lot of time running on the beach. Earlier I talked about walking in the forest and all that. You spend a lot of time in some forms of isolation, in that you have that ability to ask yourself, God damn, is this really what I want to do? Is this really, why are you doing what you're doing? I don't know what I'm doing. And you start talking internally in yourself, trying to stay away from that monkey mind. But it was right there. I was like, you know, at the end of the week, like you talk to your parents on the phone or whatever, and your parents are like, you know, I know you can do, they're breathing life into you. I know you can do this. And, you know, and it probably was a conversation that my mom or my dad just said, we're so proud of you. And that feeling, you know, that emotion, I was like, okay, that they filled my tank up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They filled me up, and I was like, okay, I'm getting the shit kicked out of me here in Buds, but man, if I can talk to my mom and dad every weekend, right, one of the greatest things was calling my mom and dad after Hell Week. All right?
Yeah.
It's like, man, I mean, I can think about it right now. I remember the call and my dad saying, I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting how, these little things can translate into fuel for you. So long story short, I would say, put yourself in situations where you are uncomfortable that first 5K. It doesn't matter if you got to go walk that first 5K. Sign up for one. Go get in that 5K. In that 5K, you can say, why am I doing this? I don't know. Well, I want to lose 15 pounds. I want to move, I want to do this.
I'm going to start that business.
I don't want to be tired in the afternoon. I want to be fresh so that I can make more sales in the business, or on and on. Or I want to be a better parent. I want to be able to walk with my kids to the playground, do some stuff with them, and come back. I don't want to be 50 pounds overweight and sitting down. So in those moments of physical, you have those isolation moments where you can have that self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up in that first week, and I found my why. And once I had that why, I might have been a C- student in math, and I'll say this very humbly, I had an A+ 1,000. You're going to have to put my ass on a stretcher with an oxygen mask or a body bag. Take me out of there. It ain't going to. I'm not going willing. I don't care if whatever's broken, whatever, because my why is so strong. So I got lucky, but I put myself in a test by fire situation, those isolation moments, do or die, and I had that self-reflection, and it hit. But no, I know I've actually what you're saying is it's hard to quantify the why for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But those that have it, and you'll hear professional fighters, you'll hear after a fight, you'll hear they'll point to God, or they'll say, for my mom, or for my team.
Mm-hmm.
They were doing it for something bigger.
That's
if you just go out and just do it for yourself, you may be an elite athlete, you may be able to pull that off. More power to you. But for me, I have to find something bigger. Like my family's bigger than me. The Navy SEAL Foundation veterans, it's a bigger than me. It's a bigger
Mm-hmm.
cause. And when I attach myself to that, it puts me in a whole different realm of, like I say, man, it's on.
Yeah.
We go to the mountains. If I got something and I'm going to punch it out for charity.
But see that excitement and that enthusiasm and that passion that just came out when you're talking about that, that's what you have to have if you're going to be a fishing guide or going to be a hunting guide. You're going to have to take them out on a stretcher with oxygen because, man, you might fail here, but you're not going to fail repeatedly over time. You're going to make this dream happen,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I find that for me, the physical training is a big part of it. And I'll have just moments of clear thinking after a workout or even during a workout. And I find that if I can write those down,
Mm-hmm.
like just a little tiny piece of the why that I'm starting a business or that I'm doing this or I'm taking this chance
Mm-hmm.
or that, I want to do this for my kids or whatever. Just taking those little tiny pieces and those little tiny moments of clarity and writing them down. Mm-hmm. And then eventually it starts to become clearer and clearer and
Mm-hmm.
clearer and clearer that this is
Mm-hmm.
what I'm doing. And that is a strong why,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the why may not just pop into your mind
Right.
immediately. Your why can change over time. My why earlier was my family and I wanted my dad to be proud, my parents to be proud of me. And I wanted to serve my country. My uncle served and my great aunt and on and on. That was a big part there too. But yeah, it's, having that passion to pull you through and having that bigger cause is so important. But touching back on what you just said, I think is so important is that the workout You might have even used the term when we were working out. It can kind of blow out the cobwebs.
Yes.
And so right after you work out, I've done this before with audios. It's like right after workout, it's a great time to do we did a little video over here because you're thinking you're at a
higher level.
You're at a higher level. The blood's flowing. It's cleaning out everything, and your mind's sharp and it's alert. You've been focusing. You had to focus on those pull-ups as hard as they were. I wanted to finish the drill, and so right then I talked about it earlier. That creativity. That's where it's really helped me in business is that I go out for 2 hours with the dogs and hike and no phone or whatever. And I come out of that, I feel so much better and I have those moments of creativity. Then maybe I'll do 15 minutes of work and check on things or whatever. And I know that you can be more productive when you do something. Like earlier talked about running for 30 minutes during your 1 hour lunch break. That can help elevate you so that you actually feel better that afternoon. So instead of sitting there in the cubicle at 3 o'clock and you're like,
Checking
you
Facebook.
you still feel, you're still 3 hours after that lunch, and plus you've put yourself in that position where it's like, I did something today to improve myself. I can't slack off now.
Right.
I can't go eat a honey bun and guzzle down a bomb blaster drink. I was saying it's like, then you want to go eat a good meal, and so that you kind of continue that trend. But it's so important with I don't understand all the scientific side of it and the brainwave side of it, but I definitely know that working out for me, it opens up this dimension of creativity where you can get good ideas out. Not all of them work.
Definitely.
I'm just saying it helps you break up that brain fog.
Yeah.
And
I find that the same way. I mean, if I have writing to do, it's immediately after the workout.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought would be interesting here is to do a workout together and then do this podcast, because I think that I don't know, it just loosens everybody up to have a physical effort, to just kind of see where everybody's coming from, and it's all good, and then sit down and now you're relaxed and you're clear-headed. But it completely works for me. I find as I age, I'm going to be 50 this August.
All right, man. Looking good for 50. Hey, that's old. I hate to use age, but hey, it's good, man. You can be 50 and be in shape,
I know. I feel like I'm getting better. I feel like I'm getting better. I mean, in the CrossFit workouts, you maintain all the times and all the records, and there's really easy
there's
things
metrics
where
that you can look at. You know where you're at year to year on Cindy or
and there's
whatever
really
workout.
super, we used to do it on these boards, and then there's a beyond the whiteboard or whatever that you put it on, and you schedule all your workouts, and then it's really easy. You just put it in there and put in the scores, and then over time you see this this progression on the graph that you're doing better, or the times are coming down or whatever. But I mean, I'm doing better physically than I ever have. But I find that the training is less for physical gains and more for mental. And I need it more for creativity, more for stress release, more for a clear head than I do for getting another 10 pounds on my power clean or something like that. I don't know. It just seems like that has become more important, as has become more important the meditation or some form of I don't necessarily meditate. I try but I'm apparently not very good at it, because even as I go into calming the mind, I can calm the mind, but then I do things like wondering what I might eat for dinner or something like that. But I came across that Wim Hof breathing about 4 years ago, and that has been without a doubt the greatest form of meditation, mind quieting that I can do. And I do that breathing, and everything is empty. I mean, it is amazing for me. And other people can do that with meditation or with yoga or with many other things. I found all of those to be somewhat effective for me, but the breathing had profound effects. And there's rarely a day that I start without you know, 3 or 4 rounds of 30 to 40 breaths,
Yeah.
and then finish it up with push-ups. And
Yeah,
apparently,
you found a system that works
yeah,
for you.
yeah,
That's great, man.
and that calming of the mind, it works great, the best for me in the morning, because then I set my day. And then there's also something I wanted to tell you. One of the greatest pieces that I came out of from your training was something that stuck with me to this day, and that is when you sweep your feet out of bed and you put one on the ground, you say thank, and the next one hits the ground, it says you. Thank you. Thank you, all the way into brushing your teeth in the morning. And then, you know, and you just set yourself in that place of gratitude, in that place, and then comes the drinking some water, and then comes the breathing after that, and then comes the workout.
Morning ritual, so important.
Do you have, what's your morning ritual?
Well, basically what you just said there is that I try to get up early. My wife's going to laugh if she sees this right now, 'cause she gets up way earlier than I do. But yeah, no, it's like 6:45. I'll go to the gym, what have you. But when I get out of bed, I learned this a couple years ago. I don't even know. I think it might have been Coach Mark Devine might have told me, but that or alluded to it where I could use it. I didn't know, really have thought about this. But yeah, feet get out of the bed, and it's thank you. You're setting your intention right for the day. I'm so thankful that I'm allowed to stand up on my own 2 feet, and that I can breathe, and that I can move and begin my day. I'm so incredibly thankful for that. And so starting that morning ritual off, paying attention, being mindful of that morning ritual, just has been so important in my life in terms of trying to, keep me calm and relaxed and being more productive, staying away from stress or what have you. But yeah, it'll be that, I'll go in and get my coffee mug, put it under the refrigerator. I'll get some good, clean, filtered water. I'll drink a good cup of water first. Your body's somewhat dehydrated. I don't need to put coffee in there when your body's a little dehydrated from the night. And then from there, I'll have a good stiff cup of coffee, and I'll not really a plug, but I do use the Bubs collagen protein. I use that, and so I'll throw some of that in there, and then I'll go back and either I'll sit down and I'll have some deep breathing or just a moment at a time. I don't jump on my phone and go to email or anything like that. So I'll sit down for a few minutes, or I may even go sit. My wife's already up and she's working, and I'll talk with her. I'll sit at the table there, and then I'm on to the gym, and I'll meet up with a buddy of mine. We do some powerlifting and what have you. He's got something looking for it. But yeah, so that's setting your intention early on in the day or the morning. And as weird as this sound too, coming from a Navy SEAL, is that sometimes I'll come back from the gym. I live near the lake. I live on the lake. And so when I'm coming back, I'll just go down to the lake here and take a look out. And sometimes there's fishermen there. And I'll take a picture or whatever. And I'll just, as weird as it sounds, I'll post up on Facebook. Today will be a good day. I don't do it. I do it once a month or something like that. And that set the intention of that. Yeah, today will be a good day. And, I found myself, and that a lot of that came from SEAL Fit training, Coach Mark Devine, a mentor of mine, is that I had found myself back 10 years ago in Atlanta. Sometimes I'd be driving to work in the morning, and I'm like, I'm white-knuckling the steering wheel here, and I'm like, I'm listening to the traffic report. There's an 18-wheeler. It's flipped over and it's on fire in Atlanta traffic, and I've got a cup of coffee and I'm screeching, and I've got a cup of coffee spilled in my lap, and I'm trying to munch on a granola bar. So, what I'm saying is, my morning ritual before SEAL Fit and all that was not, I didn't have intent to have a great day. I didn't have the sense of gratitude. I'm not going to say I was ungrateful, but I just became more aware of using that as a way to set the table for the day.
Yeah.
So it's hard to go have a bad day when you just intentionally said, look how beautiful it is out here. I'm going to have a great day.
Yeah.
When you put yourself in that mindset, even when you encounter a stress over here, somebody's flipping you off or swerving in front of you in traffic or whatever, you're in a lot better frame of mind to, hey, no problem, whatever. If I'm over here white-knuckling it and I spill coffee in my lap and I'm like, oh, trying to swerve, and I'm probably flipping the guy off and ready to, I mean, I'm human too.
Yeah.
I mean, my emotions get, but by intentionally going back to that and setting that table every morning, you set yourself up for success. You're doing methodical steps to train your mind. And when you do that for days and weeks and months, when you do that for a decade, you're thinking a whole different realm when you wake up.
Deal.
Yeah. So, yeah. And the same thing for when you go to bed at night. It's like, I don't watch the evening news before I go to bed at night.
Yeah.
Used to. Grew up in a family where, watch the evening news or whatever. Yeah, they're talking about stabbing and raping and killing and, locusts are dropping from the sky. I mean, right before you go to bed? No way, man. Before you go to bed, you read, for 5 minutes from a good book.
Mm-hmm.
Read something positive, and then you go to bed. So you're setting the stage there, too.
Yeah.
To get a good night's sleep. And so many people, they when they're in that monkey mind zone, they're watching bad. They don't even know that's a problem. That's just what the habit of they're in.
Right.
And they're watching the evening news. Then they go to bed, and you've had the glare of the screen, all that. But then, your mind's all turned up about something. And then you maybe go to bed and you only get 6 hours of sleep.
Right.
And it's not that good of sleep. You're all wrestling around and whatever. You know what I'm saying? So having that 8 hours of sleep after doing something good right before you went to bed, and then you wake up in the morning and you set the table right with intention, your whole life, talk about 1%, your
whole life
in a year,
change.
In a month, you can change your life.
Yeah.
With those quick, easy steps. You don't even need a gym. The gym is great. That's your mind gym. That's your own little 5 minute. People always tell me, they're like, I'm too busy. I'm traveling. I'm this, I'm that. And I'm like, okay, what book are you reading? I'm not reading a book right now. Here's a good book. Read this book 5 minutes before you go to bed. And do 5 minutes or do a minute of plank. I can't do a minute of plank. Do it on your elbows. I can't do it. Do 30 seconds. You know what I'm saying? So right before you go to bed, and don't watch TV. That thing alone right there, if you can hand that to someone and they do it. And I tell them, hey, email me tomorrow and tell me from accountability what you did. Now you got an accountability partner. When you start doing those things over time, you're living in a completely different world where it's like nothing's impossible. But we're going to go ride 200, 300 miles or whatever. Hey, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you think, I can do this. And I know it's going to be fun. I tell myself it's going to be fun, even if it's raining and, whatever. It's going to be fun,
Well, that's awesome. And what I think is so awesome about that is that you're taking that mindset and you're taking the things that you've learned and developed, and you're taking your mentors and all of this input that you've had, and you're sharing it with others. And you're sharing it with others that some of them want to be Special Forces warriors. Some of them have no intention of doing that whatsoever.
Most people that check out our site, they're not.
But man, you're doing great work, and God, can you believe it? We've been going for an hour and 37 minutes. So
hey, when you talk about something that is important to you or you're passionate about, you're not, Back when I used to work in a cubicle, you're looking at the clock. What time is it? Yeah. Is it coffee break yet? When you do something that you're passionate about, you're not checking the clock. You're doing you're doing the next right thing. You're doing what you need to do to move you forward, just like this workout earlier.
And this whole conversation is so important to all of those people out there that want to do something different. They want to quit their job and be a hunting guide. They want to quit their job and be a fishing guide. They want to quit their job and be a photographer in the outdoor space. There's so many people like that. And so, man, there it is. There's the secret to success from Brad McLeod, Navy SEAL. Find your why. Determine exactly what that is in the most condensed way that possible. If you could put that into one sentence, put your why into one sentence. And if someone, or you always hear people, they say if you're asked on an elevator, what's your why? Could you do it before you hit the next floor? So you got your elevator
Hey,
speech, but
family.
whatever, right? So find your why, determine what that is, and then it's 1% every day, and then the final recipe to the puzzle is don't quit, right?
Yeah.
Secret
D-
to
was it
success. All right.
DFQ.
Well,
Don't freaking quit.
that's right. Well, we're gonna unfortunately have to quit on this podcast, but we're gonna do it again.
Yeah,
Love
definitely.
having you, man.
Hey, man,
It
I'd
was
love to
really
come up
super fun.
to Chattanooga. It's one of my favorite cities anywhere. You got climbing, paddling, mountain biking, trail running.
So
You
much.
You got everything right here. You got the river, and no, I love coming up to Chattanooga.
Cool.
Good.
Well, we'll definitely do it again. Tell everybody how they can find all of this content that you're putting out and follow you on all your social platforms.
Yeah, it's just SealgrinderPT. If you just type that in, Google search, it'll pop up our Facebook. You can follow us. We have our main website, and you can email me. I answer every single email personally. Brad at SealgrinderPT.com. I love helping other people. Whether you're trying out for buds or you're trying to do your first 5K. I've been there, and anything I can do to share to help other people, I'm all about it. So I'll answer every single email myself. I don't have, somebody else. I don't have someone to help me on that because it's something that I think is important that you have to give back. So yeah.
And you also have your own podcast. And
Yep.
they can get that off of the website, or
Yep. Yeah, we just posted that up on the website. We have three podcasts that we just started putting together, and of course, we need to have you on our show there coming up.
We'll definitely
We're just starting out with
we'll
podcasts.
definitely do that. So I'm going to help Brad with the little bit of information that I've gained on putting out these podcasts, and he will soon be on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, and everywhere else that you can find a podcast. But what's the podcast called? You got to have a title. Seal Grinder PT.
Yeah, for right now, it's just Seal Grinder PT, but but I'm sure we'll find a good we'll find a good name for it. But yeah, just Seal Grinder PT. If you just type that in and podcast, you'll be able to find the three that we have online right now. So yeah.
All right, you're gonna have a lot more and some really good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Brad. Thanks so much, man.
Oh yeah,
Appreciate
man.
it.
No, definitely. It's my pleasure.